Bravely Default brings up one of the greatest rivalries known to man. We've covered the pirate already, so now we move on to the ninja. The ninja boasts incredible speed, dexterity, and respectable strength, making them a difficult-to-hit nuisance that can hit hard and hit fast, bringing some of the best damage outputs in the game. Add on a variety of aggro management tools, evasion increasing skills, and stat boosting abilities, and you have the recipe for one of the most oppressive jobs in the game. But let's take a quick look at the ninja's specialty, Dual Wield. This specialty allows for the ninja to equip 2 weapons, one in each hand, without having to take the damage penalty you normally have to for doing so. This basically allows the ninja to use 2 weapons to their maximum potential, effectively giving the job the best conventional damage, and by extension, some of the greatest attack potential in the game, outside of using Bravely Second, of course. Now that is pretty awesome, but do note that because both hands are being occupied by weapons, the ninja can't equip a shield, and since it already has pretty weak defenses, you will need to dedicate extra resources to make sure the ninja, or ninjas, in your team are alive and healthy, especially in the mid-game when you might not have access to the more powerful abilities that the later jobs bring. So before we move on, I do want to say my pronunciation of these abilities might not be the best, so I apologize. But anyway, first up on combat abilities is Shibu Jinrai. This ability has the same power as a conventional attack, but will always activate at the beginning of a turn, meaning its damage will always be dealt to a target before they have the chance to react, regardless of how slow the user is or how fast the opponent is. This gives the ninja a decent attack option for trying to kill enemies with smaller HP bars or nearly defeated bosses. Because Shibu Jinrai has the attack strength of a regular attack, don't think of it as a strict improvement over standard attacks, as the combat ability not only costs MP to use, but it also won't benefit from any support abilities that boost the strength of regular attacks. In general, if you find an opening to close out a fight as soon as possible, use this ability. Second is Utsusemi. Utsusemi allows the user to evade one incoming physical attack with 100% accuracy. Utsusemi acts as a buff, so it can be applied in one turn and activated during another. The attack doesn't need to immediately follow the ability. This also means Utsusemi will be removed if a boss has a means of getting rid of buffs, as Utsusemi is included in that. Keep that in mind for evasion tank builds. Speaking of evasion, this ability is the bread and butter of evasion builds, since dodging attacks in Bravely Default can be a little finicky, as you need to have an absurdly high evasion stat in order to dodge attacks comfortably. Utsusemi gives you a freebie without costing anything to use. This can come in handy even if you aren't trying to turn your ninja into a tank. Next up is Ikikase. For 1 extra BP, the user of Ikikase will have their hit count doubled for a whole turn. This ability generally acts like 2 uses of Quick on a single target for 1 turn, meaning that any attacks that have hit count calculated into their damage become much stronger for that duration of time. This especially helps out Ninja, as conventional attacks are sort of their specialty, so being able to boost the damage output of those attacks even higher than they already are is incredible. Hitting the damage cap becomes a joke when Ikikase is used on Ninja. Of course, having a Time Mage might weaken its use a little bit thanks to Quick, but being able to apply it to yourself and having it built into your kit is still very powerful. Next on the list is Shunshin. Shunshin raises the user's evasion to its maximum for 6 turns, making dodging physical attacks a bit easier. I am going to reiterate again that evasion is a little finicky in Bravely Default, and even the jobs with the highest evasion stats can struggle to actually dodge attacks without the help of Utsusemi, and Shunshin isn't really helping anything. If you want to build an evasion tank, these 2 ninja abilities are pretty much mandatory, but it might honestly be worth it to just rely on Utsusemi rather than Shunshin. Though, because Shunshin is also considered a buff, you could also just pop it early into a fight and not have to think about it for a few turns. Now we've come to Karai. This is the 3rd job in a row now that we've talked about that has an aggro increasing tool. But the twist is, Karai actually works as intended. For 1 turn, the character you selected with this ability will become the target of single target attacks. No ifs or buts about it. This is wonderful for trying to manage incoming attacks, as there is no RNG on whether or not it worked. Tank builds, rejoice! Karai works well with evasion tank setups, with Utsusemi, or any high defense builds. The only thing you really need to keep in mind is that Karai needs to be applied every turn. So either make sure your tank can apply it on themselves consistently every single turn, or you might need to have someone else in the team play as a ninja to apply it to them. Last up for combat abilities is Kakuremi. This ability is another aggro management tool, but this time lowering the chance of the user being targeted by single target attacks to its maximum. This is more akin to the other aggro abilities we've seen up to this point, with it only increasing the chance of not getting hit, rather than making it impossible. Still quite useful for a fragile job like the ninja or healers who don't exactly want to take damage, but the chance is still there. Shifting over to the ninja's support abilities, we first have Evasion Up. This comes in a 10%, 20%, and 30% version. These support abilities pair quite well with the Shunshin combat ability if you wish to make a dodge tank setup, but I won't waste time going over why evasion is still a little unreliable. If these support abilities help out, wonderful, but if not, then just move on. Second up is Transience. Once an attack has been evaded, the user will perform a counterattack that has the same power as a regular attack. Quite useful when paired with Utsumi, and that duo can even be used to completely trivialize any encounter with just physical attacks. Once again, and say it with me now, this ability is very good for evasion tank builds. Slap this on, and evading attacks can become a very easy source of damage for your team without putting in too much effort to accomplish anything. Continuing with the evasion trend, next is Comeback Kid. This support ability will raise the user's physical and magical attack power by 25% for every attack evaded, maxing out at a 50% increase. This obviously pairs well with Utsumi, Shunshin, and Transience. Again, I'll reiterate that if you want to avoid physical attacks altogether for long periods of time and benefit from it, this is the way to go. Comeback Kid giving you a bonus to your damage output will allow for Transience to deal more damage, and of course, it'll make your conventional attacks much stronger as well. Keep Comeback Kid in mind for dodge tank builds, just like pretty much everything else in the ninja's kit. Now, Cleave is a little interesting. Once you have defeated an enemy with a conventional attack, there is a chance that you will perform another conventional attack without using any extra BP. Now, the chances of Cleave activating work upon a case-by-case basis. Cleave will have a higher chance of proccing if the damage you dealt for the killing blow was much higher than the enemy's remaining HP. Because Ninja has a pretty good attack setup going, you will probably see Cleave activate fairly often. Now, with that said, the chances of Cleave activating does have a limit that cannot be bypassed, which in my testing is roughly around a 30% chance of activating. So don't rely on it too heavily for clearing out packs of enemies, but it's there if you want it. Next is the ninja's specialty, Dual Wield. This ability takes up 2 support slots, but it might be worth it for the extra damage it could potentially bring. Note what job you are currently setting up and decide whether or not it would be best to outfit them with 2 weapons, or if it would be better just to rely on their abilities for damage. Again, you do not want to lower your defenses if you do not need to. Lastly, we have Frenetic Fighting. This ability raises the user's maximum hit count potential from 16 to 32, making the damage output of the user much higher than normal. Because hit count is a crucial part of the conventional damage calculations, slotting this on any job that relies on doing regular attacks is pretty much a must, since the extra hit count bonuses will only get better with Frenetic Fighting. I would consider either using Ikikase or the Time Mage's Quick to ensure that you are consistently hitting anywhere from 30 to 32 of these hits though, as that will give you the biggest bonus possible. Using weapons with S-rank affinities or the Ranger's Hawkeye also help increase accuracy, so don't forget about those as well when outfitting a powerful conventional attacker like the Ninja. So let's take everything we know now and talk about Ninja as a main job. Thanks to the built-in dual-wield specialty that the job has, it can use its support slots to increase their damage to a point where even the jobs with the highest strength and accuracy stats cannot match the Ninja's raw conventional damage output. Now, this doesn't mean that the Ninja is the end-all be-all in terms of damaging enemies in the game, but they are one of the easiest to set up if you desire to just tear through enemies with ease. The Ninja's kit also synergizes extremely well with itself, with abilities like Utsumi, Comeback Kid, Transience, the evasion boosts, and Shunshin all working well together to create an incredible evasion gameplay style that hasn't been seen before in any of the other jobs we've talked about. These abilities also work well with other skills activated by dodging attacks like the Red Mage's Turntables, giving the Ninja a wellspring of BP to pull from during combat. Ninja's speed and agility normally allow them to act first in combat, so giving them a job that applies buffs or debuffs can also be quite useful, as they can set up those before anything else happens, giving your party a strong advantage in any battle. If you couldn't tell, synergy is the name of the game for Ninja, so experimentation is encouraged to find what style truly fits your team. But with all of the pros of the job, there are of course some drawbacks as well. The ninja specializes in doing conventional damage, which means AoE attacks aren't exactly their strong suit. So they will need help in that department if you want to use stuff like Valkyrie's Crescent Moon in order to deal decent damage to all enemies. Though, the most glaring issue with the ninja is the fact that while it can dish out wonderful damage, it can't take it, as their defense and HP stats are horrible, meaning they will die without much effort, and thanks to dual wield taking a shield slot, the ninja becomes even easier to kill than other jobs like a black mage or thief. Despite the wonderful damage output that the job does have, the weapon affinities of the ninja also do leave a bit to be desired, as the best daggers in the game are locked behind Narende Village, and their affinity to katanas is only at a B. This means you either need to bite the bullet and use the weaker daggers, or you will need to dedicate a support slot to increasing your accuracy or katana affinities as much as possible. This isn't a huge issue, but it is something you will need to do if you want to deal as much damage as possible with this job. Ninja as a sub-job is mostly going to be used for support tools, like Utsusemi or Karai. Jobs like the Knight or even a healer like the White Mage can take full advantage of these abilities to manipulate incoming damage in their favor to keep party members who might be in danger out of it. The Ninja doesn't really sport any insane damage buttons inside of the kit, mostly relying on conventional attacks, so you'll really only need the Ninja skills for any evasion or aggro managing setups. Though one thing to keep in mind is that if you want to use dual wield on any other job, you must sacrifice 2 support slots to do so, which in turn limits what else you can add to that character. It might not be worth trying to use dual wield on any other job other than Ninja seriously because of this, but I'm sure there might be some uses for it, but I haven't found any yet. And onto the fashion tier list we go, starting with the boys. His design is both really cool and also a little clunky. First, I love the Oni mask that he has on the back of his head, and I kind of wish you could toggle it to be on the back of his head or have him wear it as an actual mask. The extra katana on the back is neat, and the fact that his outfit is a midnight blue color is a neat detail, as a good deal of real-life ninjas would actually wear dark blue outfits rather than just straight-up black. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that he's essentially just wearing a tank top with his sleeves being removed. I know stealth isn't really a big deal in Bravely Default, but I mean, I wouldn't want to rely on Tiz to sneak around at night in the design he has right now. He'd get caught instantly. Ringabel seems a bit better prepared to go sneaking around, covering up his arms, and he also has a cool Oni mask as well. But the black doesn't really fit him very well in my personal opinion. But I will say, however, the extra arm and leg guards that Ringabel does have really make him feel intimidating, so bonus points for that. Neither of them are my favorite, but they're far from bad. Tiz will go in low B tier, with Ringabel placing a bit higher in the same category. The girls' outfits take more inspiration from the Kunoichi, who normally wore more casual clothing due to them being similar to spies in some ways, which is why their design is different from the boys. My opinions on Agnes and Idia's designs are pretty much identical, as the only real major difference is the shoes and their hair. Ultimately, I think both of these designs are pretty solid, with the dual katanas and flower pattern kimono being highlights. Solid A tier spot for the both of them.